No one is ready for this. The fan meeting stops when Jimin reads Jungkook's secret love message. Jimin, don't read it, please. Jungkook's voice cracked, the microphone still hot in his trembling hand, the stadium suddenly too quiet, like the breath of thousands had been yanked away. Jimin's fingers froze over the folded pink envelope, delicate and trembling in the spotlight. He had found it tucked in the pages of Jungkook's lyric notebook unintentionally, innocently, while playfully rummaging through his things on stage for a game during the fan meeting. The game was simple. Each member pulled something random from another member's bag and made jokes about it. Laughter had filled the arena like champagne bubbles until now. The letter wasn't labeled. No name. No signature. Just a heart sticker sealing the flap. The crowd leaned forward in collective suspense, the sea of light sticks flickering like stars holding their breath. I think I should read this, Jimin whispered, his voice echoing unnaturally. He glanced sideways at Jungkook. The Maknae's face had gone pale, his jaw tight. His fingers gripped the mic with such force his knuckles blanched. Jin, ever the eldest, stepped forward. Maybe we should skip that one, Chim, he said lightly, trying to regain the room's rhythm. But Jimin, always attuned to undercurrents, had seen something flicker in Jungkook's eyes. Pain. Terror. Love. He broke the seal. The stadium went pin-drop silent. There are things I can never say in songs, no matter how many melodies I write. I see you every day, but you never see me. Not really. You smile and I want to catch it, hold it forever. I talk in riddles because the truth is too heavy for my voice. But if you're reading this, it means I'm braver than I thought. It means I need you to know that the one I've been writing about all these years is you. A beat. Then another. The crowd did not cheer. They did not scream. They felt. Jimin's breath caught in his throat. His hands lowered. He didn't speak. Couldn't. He looked at Jungkook again, but this time, not with the teasing warmth of a bandmate or the gentle fondness of a hyung. He looked with dawning comprehension and something that scorched deeper. The staff in the wings whispered. The stage manager signaled frantically. The translator hesitated, unsure whether to relay what had just been read aloud in Korean. RM stepped forward, brows furrowed, mic lowered. We'll take a short break. But no one moved. Not the fans. Not the members. Not even Jungkook, whose soul had been peeled bare under the lights. Jimin walked slowly toward him. Why didn't you tell me? Jungkook's lips parted, but no sound came out. He couldn't speak. Not now. His chest heaved, years of restraint slamming into this one irretrievable moment. Taehyung watched them with a strange stillness, as if he had known all along. Yoongi sat down quietly on the stage floor, head bowed, the edge of a storm behind his calm. Jimin stood in front of Jungkook now, only inches away. He held out the letter. Is this yours? It was a lifeline or a blade. And Jungkook had to choose. His eyes glistened, glassy with unshed truths. He nodded. Once. Jimin's fingers curled around the paper, crushing it slightly. His eyes never left Jungkook's. You're a coward, he said, voice trembling with more than anger. You waited for a game. For fate. You should have looked me in the eyes and told me. Jungkook flinched, the stage dimmed, and the room pulsed with the crowd's emotions. Some sobbed. Some whispered. Some stood frozen, their dreams crumbling and reshaping into something more real than any fantasy. But Jimin added softly, voice breaking just enough to tremble, you also wrote the most beautiful thing anyone's ever said to me. He stepped closer, until only a breath separated them. And I need a minute to understand what this means. He handed the mic to staff and turned, walking offstage without another word, leaving silence and heartbreak in his wake. Jungkook remained rooted in place, lips parted, heart shattered open on a global stage. The fan meeting was over, but the real story had only just begun. Silence after the storm. Jungkook faces the backlash. I told you not to read it. Jungkook's voice was hoarse as he slammed the dressing room door shut behind him, his chest still heaving. The makeup mirrors rattled with the impact, bottles of foundation and skincare clattering to the floor. Jimin, still in his stage outfit, sat silently on the couch, eyes unfocused, one leg bouncing rapidly. He didn't flinch. You didn't tell me what it was, Jimin replied coldly. You just panicked like a child. You left me no choice. Jungkook ran both hands through his hair, frustrated and terrified all at once. The dressing room was too small for the chaos inside his head. You had a choice. You could have handed it back. You could have, he stopped. The words were useless now. Everything was already out in the open. Jimin stood, slowly, his movements deliberate. You think I wanted to humiliate you? In front of ARMY? In front of our brothers? In front of the world? Then why did you read it? Because it had my name written between every line. Their eyes locked, blazing, stormy, wounded. In the hallway outside, a crowd of managers, security staff, and fellow members lingered uneasily. They had all heard what happened. Some had seen it unfold in real time, some only heard the whispers from the crowd. No one was talking now. No one dared interfere. This was a wound that had to bleed before it could be treated. Do you know what you just did? Jungkook asked quietly, voice raw. The press is going to twist everything. The fans, they'll divide. The company, I don't care about the company, Jimin interrupted, stepping forward, barely restraining the tremble in his jaw. I care about you. And I care that you've been walking around with that kind of pain buried inside you like a ticking time bomb. Jungkook's composure cracked. You weren't supposed to know. Why? Jimin's voice broke. Because it's easier to lie to me. To write me letters you never send. Songs you never explain. I thought we were. You don't know what it's like. Jungkook snapped, finally losing control. To look at you every day and pretend I don't love you. To sit next to you, joke with you, dance with you, and bury everything I feel so it doesn't ruin us. Jimin's breath caught. You think this is only about you? The room grew still. Even the buzz of the fluorescent lights seemed to hush. I spent years wondering why your lyrics sounded like confessions meant for someone else. Why you'd look at me when we rehearsed and then look away too fast. Why the space between us always felt too loud. You think I didn't feel that? Jungkook stared, stunned. I didn't read your letter to expose you, Jimin continued, voice thick. I read it because I needed to hear the truth even if it destroyed everything. Silence again. It hung between them like a blade. A gentle knock came at the door. It opened slightly, revealing Namjoon's concerned face. We have to meet with the XX in 10 minutes. Things are getting out of control online. Neither of them answered. The door closed quietly. Jungkook finally exhaled, the weight of years pressing down on his spine. What do we do now? Jimin didn't respond. He walked past him, picked up the crumpled letter from the floor where it had fallen from his pocket, and smoothed it out slowly with shaking hands. I don't know, he whispered. But I think this is the beginning of something none of us are ready for. That night, the internet exploded. #Jungkook trended worldwide within 20 minutes. Fan theories, old video clips, lyrical breakdowns, side-by-side analyses of glances and touches over the years flooded Twitter, TikTok, and forums. Supporters rallied. Critics fumed. The company went into crisis mode. In the group dorm, the members gathered around the dining table in uneasy silence. Hoseok finally broke it. You know the board's going to want a response. They already do, Taehyung said, reading off his phone. Official statement pending. Damage control in progress. Yada yada yada. Yoongi, ever composed, looked at Jungkook. Do you want to deny it? The question hung in the air like gunpowder. Jungkook swallowed hard. No. Jimin glanced up from across the table. Their eyes met again, and this time, there was no fire, only the weight of truth laid bare. Namjoon nodded slowly. Then we go together. But it's not that simple, Jungkook said. If I tell the truth, everything changes. Our careers. The fandom. Everything we've built. Taehyung leaned forward, voice unusually serious. Then let it change. Maybe it's time. The next morning, the 7 of them sat on a live broadcast, faces solemn, hearts pounding. Jungkook took the mic. I didn't plan for this to happen the way it did. I didn't want to hurt anyone. But I won't lie. The letter was mine. And the words in it are true. The room filled with static from the live stream's overwhelmed chat. Hearts flooded the corner of the screen. Some with broken emojis. Some with rainbow flags. Some with nothing but silence. I've been afraid for a long time, he continued, voice steadier now. Afraid of what love could cost me. What honesty could take away. But I've come to realize, Hiding is a heavier burden. He turned to Jimin. I'm not hiding anymore. Jimin took the mic gently from his hand. His expression unreadable. You didn't have to be perfect, Jungkook, he said softly. You just had to be honest. He reached out and took his hand openly, clearly, with a quiet defiance. The fanbase shattered, but in that moment, before the media frenzy, before the lawsuits, before the flood of praise and backlash, there was stillness. And in that stillness, a new story began. You think just holding my hand will fix this? Jimin's voice was quiet, but it cut through the hotel room like a razor. The cameras were gone. The live stream had ended hours ago. The coordinated statements had been posted. But the silence now was louder than any stage they'd stood on. Jungkook stood by the window, fingers twitching against the cold glass as Seoul's skyline blinked back at him in distant apathy. I never said it would fix anything. No, but you acted like it would. Like that broadcast made everything clean again. Jimin's voice cracked, and when Jungkook turned, he saw it, the glint of exhaustion behind his eyes. Not just tiredness from performance or media storms, but the kind of weariness that came from emotional whiplash. I was trying to be brave, Jungkook said, his voice flat, but defensive. You waited until the world forced your hand. I didn't ask for the letter to be read, but you wrote it. Jimin exploded, rising to his feet. You wrote it and left it where I'd find it. Whether you meant to or not, you wanted to be caught. The air between them grew tight with unsaid truths. Jungkook stepped forward. I wrote it because I was drowning. I couldn't sing about you anymore without losing my mind. Every lyric felt like a lie unless I said your name out loud. You're not the only one who's been carrying things, Jimin said, his voice suddenly small. Do you know what it's like to look at you and wonder if what I feel is one-sided? To want to reach for you on stage and not know if it would mean anything off stage? Jungkook faltered. You feel it too? Jimin laughed bitterly. It's not a question of feeling. It's about what we do now that the world is watching. Just then, a knock came at the door. Taehyung slipped in, not waiting for permission. He had his phone in hand and his expression was unreadable. You need to see this, he said simply. Jimin took the phone and scrolled. It was a fan-captured video, shaky and grainy, from the fan meeting the night before. It wasn't the letter reading, it was after. A split-second moment when Jungkook's face had collapsed into something too vulnerable, too raw. The clip had gone viral. Millions of views. The hashtags were polarizing. #protectjungkook, #Jungkookout, #love is not scandal, #betrayal of trust. They weren't just trending. They were bleeding across continents. There's more, Taehyung added. An anonymous source leaked the letter. The full text. Word for word. Jungkook went pale. That's not possible. Jimin clenched his jaw. I gave it back to you. Jungkook tried to remember. I don't know. Maybe I dropped it. Maybe someone saw. You don't drop a letter like that. Jimin barked, throwing the phone onto the bed. God, do you understand what you've done? I was trying to be honest. No, you were trying to confess. Honesty would have meant talking to me before anyone else. Not writing some poetic suicide note and leaving it like a landmine. Jungkook's voice rose. Why are you so angry with me? You're the one who read it. And now I'm the one cleaning up after you. Their breath was ragged. The silence that followed wasn't peaceful, it was scorched earth. Taehyung quietly stepped out and closed the door behind him. Jimin sat down, burying his face in his hands. His voice, when it finally emerged, was soft and raw. I'm scared. Jungkook's anger evaporated like mist. Of what? That we can't go back. That we can't move forward. That we're trapped in this spotlight, forced to perform a version of love neither of us knows how to live in. Jungkook knelt in front of him, his voice barely audible. I don't want to go back. Not if it means pretending again. Jimin lifted his face. His eyes were wet, but his expression was fierce. Then stop hiding behind poetry. If you love me, say it. Say it like it's ugly. Say it like it's hard. Say it like it's going to ruin us. Jungkook swallowed, then leaned forward. I love you, Park Jimin. I love you in ways that terrify me. I love you like it's breaking me. I love you and I hate that it took a public disaster for me to say it. The words landed like thunder between them and then, silence, but this time, Jimin didn't speak. He kissed him, not like a fairy tale. Not like a dream, like fire. Like survival. Like two people clinging to a truth they didn't know how to live with but couldn't live without. Outside, the headlines burned brighter. BTS embroiled in controversy, romance or recklessness. Company responds to leaked confession. Split fandom calls for apology. Global love meets global scrutiny. But inside that hotel room, the storm had shifted. They weren't safe, they weren't whole, but they were honest. And for the first time, that was enough. Jungkook, do you even realize what clause 12.3 means? Namjoon's voice cracked like a whip through the sterile air of the HYBE boardroom. Jungkook blinked, slow and detached, as if his body was present but his mind was still somewhere in that hotel room where Jimin's lips had tasted like rebellion and desperation. Now, everything was fluorescent lights, corporate suits, and carefully worded threats. Clause 12.3, repeated Mr. Han, the legal advisor, tapping the thick binder in front of him, states that any public action that may result in reputational harm to the company, including unauthorized disclosures of personal relationships, can trigger breach of conduct. That includes romantic involvement between group members that is not pre-approved or publicly disclosed in accordance with company protocols. Publicly disclosed? Jimin echoed, scoffing from the opposite end of the table. Like we're announcing a brand merger, not a relationship. Enough. Sejin's voice had gone low, dangerous, commanding silence in the room. This isn't just about feelings anymore. We're staring at a $14 million advertising contract with a luxury brand that's suddenly frozen. You two may think this is about love, but the rest of us are cleaning up a PR nightmare. The table went quiet. Jungkook's fists curled in his lap. So what do you want us to do? Lie? Pretend the last 48 hours didn't happen? Apologize for falling in love? We want you to survive this, Jungkook, Namjoon said, exasperated. We want us to survive this. Do you think this is just about fans and hashtags? There are investors. Partnerships. Countries where same-sex relationships are criminalized. Jimin cut in, eyes sharp. We're not responsible for the world's prejudice. No, Yoongi finally spoke, calm and low, but we're not immune to it either. Silence again, then Mr. Han stood and placed a document on the table, sliding it toward Jungkook, a temporary disassociation statement. Not a denial, just a professional distancing until the situation stabilizes. Jungkook stared at the paper. You want me to say I don't love him? No, Han said, smiling in that cold, legal way. We want you to say nothing at all. Jimin stood abruptly. I'm not a scandal, he said, voice shaking. And I won't be treated like one. He stormed out, and the door slammed hard enough to rattle the glass water pitchers. Jungkook didn't move. You have 24 hours to decide, Han said, gathering his files. If you don't sign, we begin disciplinary review. That includes potential suspension. After the boardroom emptied, only Jungkook and Namjoon remained. Namjoon exhaled. You've always been the golden one, you know? The one who could smile through anything. Jungkook didn't answer. Now you're standing in the fire, Namjoon continued. And the truth is, I don't know if we'll all make it out intact. Jungkook finally looked up. Then maybe we stop pretending we were ever intact to begin with. Later that night, the dorm was split. Taehyung paced like a caged animal. They're going to make them choose. Career or love. You know that, right? Yoongi lit a cigarette on the balcony, muttering, they already did. They chose each other. That's what scares the company. In the living room, Jimin sat curled on the couch, unread messages piling up on his phone. Some were brutal, fans calling him a manipulator, a homewrecker, someone who used Jungkook's vulnerability to gain relevance. Others were heartbreaking, anonymous voices whispering gratitude, saying they finally felt seen. He read one over and over. If even Jimin and Jungkook can't be loved without being torn apart, what chance do the rest of us have? Jungkook entered quietly, shoulders tense. I'm not signing it, he said. Jimin looked up. You'll lose everything. Not everything, Jungkook said softly. Not if I still have you. Jimin hesitated. What if I'm not worth it? Jungkook crossed the room in 3 strides and knelt in front of him. Then nothing ever was. They didn't kiss. They didn't touch. Just two hearts suspended in the quiet, pressed together by gravity, not skin. The next morning, the media circus escalated. Someone had leaked the clause, news broke. HYB allegedly forces idols to sign silence contracts in the event of internal romantic relationships. A former staff member anonymously confirmed it. The backlash was nuclear. Free love trended worldwide. Support poured in from unexpected places: international artists, LGBTQ+ advocates, even rival K-pop idols who hinted at their own silence truths. By the time the next emergency board meeting was called, the company was no longer in control of the narrative. The fans were. And suddenly, Jungkook and Jimin weren't just two idols in love, they were the epicenter of a cultural reckoning. But behind the headlines, in the silence between camera flashes and hashtags, they were still just two boys, scared, exposed, and more seen than they'd ever wanted to be. "You're on in 20, the assistant called out, voice strained, eyes avoiding both of them. Jungkook stood near the mirror in the backstage dressing room, his eyes locked on his own reflection. His eyeliner was too dark tonight. Taehyung had said it made him look dangerous. Maybe that was fitting. Tonight felt like the kind of night where danger wasn't lurking in the wings, it was standing center stage, holding a mic behind him. Jimin sat on the bench with his head in his hands, shoulders tight. The silence between them was no longer soft, it was blistering, laced with everything they hadn't said in front of the cameras. "I saw the revised set list," Jimin said quietly. Jungkook didn't respond. "You're opening solo. You're singing that song." "Still, nothing. Did you ask for that?" Jungkook met his eyes in the mirror. "Would it matter if I did?" Jimin stood, his movements abrupt. "Don't turn this into some performance of heartbreak. If you're going to say something to me, say it. Don't let the lights do it for you. You want truth." Jungkook turned. "Here's the truth. I am angry. I'm angry they made me choose. I'm angry you stormed out of that meeting. I'm angry that I'm scared to touch your hand in front of people like it's a crime." Jimin's eyes flared. "You think I'm not scared? You think I haven't read every comment dragging my name through hell, accusing me of manipulating you, seducing you, breaking the group apart? You didn't break anything," Jungkook said, stepping closer. "We were already cracking. We've been pretending for so long that we forgot how to be real." Jimin's lips quivered. "And now we're bleeding in public." Outside the room, the crowd roared. The lights dimmed. The opening VCR started to play, their silhouettes dancing in shadows across the stadium walls. 10 minutes, the assistant called again, her voice shaking more this time. "Do you regret it?" Jungkook asked suddenly, his voice a whisper. "All of this? The letter? The kiss? The truth?" Jimin didn't answer right away. He looked at the floor, then slowly raised his gaze to Jungkook's. "I regret not knowing if we'll survive it." Jungkook nodded. He understood. That kind of honesty hurt more than any lie. Minutes later, the music began. Jungkook stepped onto the stage alone. The stadium exploded with cheers, but his chest felt hollow. The first notes of his ballad floated through the air. The lyrics weren't subtle, they never had been. They were confessions wrapped in metaphors, dressed in harmony. "I wrote your name in silence on pages that burned when read. I kissed you in every chorus, but you never heard what I said." The screen behind him lit up with old tour footage. Him and Jimin laughing backstage. Brushing shoulders during choreography. Whispering jokes mid-interview. Moments that fans had speculated over for years, but now they weren't just theories. They were evidence. They were the story. By the time he finished the last verse, his voice cracked, and he let it. He didn't bow. He didn't smile. He walked off stage as the lights faded to black, leaving behind thousands of stunned faces and a silence deeper than applause. Backstage, Jimin was waiting, his jaw clenched, eyes glassy. "You weaponized our memories," he said flatly. "No," Jungkook replied. "I gave them context. You turned us into content. I told the truth." Suddenly, Jimin shoved him hard. Not playful. Not staged. "You don't get to make art out of pain we're still feeling," he snapped. Jungkook's breath caught. He didn't shove back. He just stood there, breathing heavy. "I didn't do it to hurt you. You did it because you wanted to be the one who told the story first. I did it because I didn't want someone else to." They stood there, inches apart, both shaking more from emotion than adrenaline. Suddenly, Hoseok burst into the room, phone in hand, panic in his eyes. It's trending. Jungkook blinked. What is? The footage from rehearsal. The fight. Someone leaked it. Full audio. It's everywhere. Jimin's face went pale. The video was raw. Them yelling. The push. The words. It wasn't stylized or staged, it was ugly. It was human, and it was viral. Millions of people were now witnesses to the fracture. The fanbase began to splinter. Some said it was passion. Proof of a love too intense to be tamed. Others called it toxic. Dangerous. A fall from grace. Sponsors began pulling out. News anchors speculated about the band's future. And in the middle of it all, the two of them sat in a dark corner of the green room, their knees touching, their hands trembling. I don't know how to do this anymore, Jimin whispered. Jungkook didn't speak. After a long beat, he said, then let's do it differently. Jimin looked at him. Let's stop trying to survive this like idols, Jungkook said. Let's survive it like people. The lights above them flickered. The storm was far from over, but they were done hiding in the wreckage. You need to go live, the manager said, thrusting the phone into Jungkook's hand like it was a grenade with the pin already pulled. Say something. Anything. You have to control the narrative before it controls you. Jungkook stared at the screen. The go live button pulsed red like a heartbeat. The words on his tongue felt brittle. How could he possibly contain this wildfire with a smile and carefully rehearsed sentences? They want a puppet, he muttered. Not a person. Jimin stood behind him, arms crossed, a barely contained storm in his eyes. Then don't give them either. Give them you. Jungkook turned. And what if they hate me for it? They already do, Jimin said, no softness in his tone. Or didn't you read the comments? I'm the villain. You're the fool. Yoongi's the enabler. They're rewriting us in real time. The silence wrapped around them again, thick and hot like fog in a fever dream. Jungkook stared at the phone, then slowly handed it back. I'm not doing it. Not like this. Not with cameras on and a script in my ear. The manager looked panicked. You have no idea how bad this has gotten. I know exactly how bad, Jungkook snapped. And if this whole industry collapses on my back, so be it. Later that night, the dorm was chaos. Taehyung and Hoseok sat on the floor with laptops and half-eaten takeout, trying to understand which sponsors were bailing and which were just playing hard to get. Namjoon paced like a trapped animal, muttering about statements, image rehabilitation, possible legal action. Yoongi sat by the window, earphones in, watching the city below like it might have answers. Jimin was gone. Jungkook hadn't seen him since the confrontation backstage. Every shadow felt heavier without him. The door opened abruptly. It was Sejin. His face was pale. Tight. Sweating. HYB just scheduled a press conference. Tomorrow. You're both attending. Are they serious? Namjoon asked. This isn't going to end it, it's going to ignite it. They're preparing statements. You'll read off the teleprompter. No deviations. And if we refuse? Jungkook asked, already knowing the answer, you'll be suspended. Maybe dropped. And you'll probably take the rest of BTS down with you. Silence dropped like a guillotine. That night, Jungkook found Jimin alone on the roof. It was cold. Bitter. The wind ripped across their faces and stole words before they could be spoken. I used to come up here, Jimin said quietly, when we first debuted. I'd sneak cigarettes. I was 19. So scared all the time. I'd cry, pretend it was from the wind. No one ever asked. Jungkook stepped beside him, shivering. Why didn't you ever tell me? Jimin gave a hollow smile. Because you were always smiling. Like nothing could touch you. You were light. I didn't want to ruin that. I wasn't light, Jungkook whispered. I was hiding in plain sight. Jimin's face twisted. And now the world sees everything. Are we proud of that? I'm proud I stopped lying. Jimin turned sharply. But at what cost? Yoongi's been dragged through the mud for defending us. Hobie cancelled his solo appearance because of threats. Our parents are being hounded. Do you even realize how many people we've hurt by telling the truth? Jungkook's voice rose. So what would you rather we stayed hidden forever? Pretend it was all a mistake. Go back to smiling on cue and letting the world write our story for us? I don't know. Jimin shouted. I don't know what's right anymore. All I know is I don't recognize us in this mess. Jungkook stepped closer. Do you recognize me? Jimin looked away. That's what I thought, Jungkook said bitterly. As he turned to leave, Jimin grabbed his wrist. I do, he said. I do recognize you. That's what scares me. Their eyes locked again, and for a second, the world was silent except for the hum of the city and the aching distance between their breaths. We're going to have to sit in front of those cameras tomorrow, Jimin said. And whatever we say will follow us for the rest of our lives. Then let's decide what we say, Jungkook said. Not them. The next morning, the press conference hall was a minefield. Cameras flashed like lightning. Reporters shouted before the mics were even turned on. The company PR team sat rigid, eyes flicking nervously between the two of them. Jungkook and Jimin walked onto the stage side by side. The teleprompter glowed in front of them with cold, rehearsed words. We apologize for the misunderstanding. We were unprofessional. We value the trust of our fans and colleagues. They ignored it. Jungkook stepped up to the mic. There's been a lot said in the past few days, he began. A lot of speculation. A lot of noise. But today, I just want to speak as me. The room stilled. No script. No statement. Just truth. He turned slightly, glancing at Jimin. A pause. We didn't plan this. We didn't mean for our private lives to become public chaos. But we are not ashamed. Cameras clicked furiously. We are not broken. We are not confused. We are not a scandal. Jimin stepped forward, standing beside him. We are people, he said. And we fell in love. Not in secret. Just, quietly. Until it wasn't quiet anymore. A murmur rippled through the room. Some will call this career suicide, Jungkook said. Maybe they're right. But I'd rather burn the stage than keep wearing a mask. We're still BTS, Jimin said. Still artists. Still brothers. But now, we're finally honest, too. And with that, they bowed together. The press erupted. Half the world would hate them, the other half would follow them into fire. But one thing was certain, this wasn't the end, this was revolution. The storm didn't stop after the press conference. If anything, it roared louder. Social media fractured into war zones. Brands pulled out, then came back days later under pressure. Global headlines debated not just the future of BTS, but the future of K-pop, of masculinity, of love. But somewhere beneath the noise, something else began to grow. A quiet, undeniable shift. A kind of freedom. Jungkook sat alone in the practice room 3 days after the press conference, barefoot, headphones wrapped around his neck, sweat glistening on his skin. The music wasn't playing. The mirror in front of him showed a man he barely recognized, eyes tired, body leaner, heart exposed. But he wasn't afraid of the reflection anymore. The door creaked open. Jimin entered without speaking, carrying 2 iced coffees. He dropped one next to Jungkook, then sat across from him, legs crossed, resting his back against the mirrored wall. They offered me a solo stage in Japan next month, Jimin said. Jungkook looked up. Are you going? I said only if they book 2 microphones. Jungkook's lips twitched into something between a smile and a tremble. Jimin sipped his drink, then added, I don't want to do this without you. Not anymore. I never wanted to, Jungkook replied. I just thought I had to. Jimin reached out, fingers brushing Jungkook's. Not urgently. Not possessively. Just there, anchored. Real. Later that night, Yoongi gathered everyone at the dorm living room. No cameras. No stylists. Just the 7 of them, sitting on the floor in hoodies and socks like they had 10 years ago. I think it's time we talk, Yoongi said, setting down a bottle of soju. Honestly. They did. Namjoon admitted he had known about Jungkook's feelings for years but had said nothing out of fear it would tear the group apart. Taehyung confessed he'd envied their bond. Deep down, he'd wanted that kind of connection for himself. Hoseok revealed he'd been terrified that this would be the end of everything they'd built, even while quietly cheering for them. Even Jin, who had flown back secretly from his military service on a short leave, joined the circle and simply said, I'm proud of you both. You stood when most people would have crumbled. No tears. Just truth. They laughed. They drank. They listened to old demos and roasted each other's baby pictures. For a few hours, they weren't legends. They were just 7 boys who had fought, loved, broken, healed, and chosen each other again and again. 2 weeks later, BTS released a surprise song titled Afterlight. The lyrics didn't name names. They didn't have to. It spoke of shadows and fire, of aching silence and brave confession, of standing in ruins and planting new seeds. It was raw, haunting, beautiful. Jungkook and Jimin sang the last verse together, eyes closed, voices barely above a whisper. We are not broken, we are not lost, we are the truth that silence forgot. The song shattered records within hours, but more importantly, it made something clear: they weren't just surviving anymore. They were choosing to live. In the final concert of the world tour, the lights dimmed after the last encore. Fans began to chant, "The sea of ARMY bombs glowing like galaxies." Jimin took Jungkook's hand, not for spectacle, not for drama. Just because he could. They stood at the edge of the stage, looking out over a crowd that had once demanded perfection and now demanded only honesty, and with a smile, Jimin whispered to him, just loud enough for Jungkook to hear over the roar of thousands, "We made it." Jungkook squeezed his hand, the noise and light washing over them like absolution. "No," he whispered back. "We're just beginning." And the lights went out, but for the first time in a long time, they weren't afraid of the dark.